This is That One Audition with Alicia Oxy.
I love starting in the beginning because I think it's interesting how we bricklay into a house, right? Like your house is S.W.A.T right now. You've been sitting in that beautiful house for a long time. But I am so curious how somebody you were an engineer major, right? I found that correctly?
That's right. That's correct. I was.
So an engineer major who ends up on Next Top Model. Is this one of those things where you were like somewhere and somebody just plucked you out of obscurity and wanted you to go be a model, or was modeling also a side lane?
I wish it was, because then I think I would have had a much easier path if someone just plucked me out and showed me the way. But it was nothing like that. I did go to college for engineering, for electrical engineering. I got my degree in 4 years. Most people, it takes 5 to graduate. I graduated in 4 somehow. Don't ask me what my GPA was.
I was just going to give you credit. Smart guy, just smart guy. You're a fast guy versus smart guy.
Exactly. I have an extra year of my life because I worked faster. We got my diplomas right there.
Look at that.
Mom and dad dug it out of a box somewhere. I was like, give me that thing. I'll hang it on the office wall. So they were proud. I had to get a job after college. I didn't know what that was. I did not want to do engineering. I knew that wasn't.
You did know that was not. Was acting, though, the thing where you were thinking about it, or?
Not at this time, no. I don't come from a family of artists. I was a shy kid growing up. I never did any theater or drama school. I thought I wanted to be an engineer because my dad said, hey, that's going to be a good job. You're good at math and science. You can make a good living, support a family. That's what we do as a Chinese American household. We get good grades, we get a good job, and we start a family. So I thought that was my path. And I learned very quickly after graduating that engineering was not for me.
Not the ticket.
Yeah, this is like right over my head. I know I have to get a job. I can't sit here and work on my tan on the beach in San Diego because I went to UC San Diego. That's only going to last so long. My friends were like, dude, you're way too dark. You're way too tan. Go get a job. So I was like, okay, got to get a job. Don't know what that is. A buddy of mine worked in escrow, and he sent me a job ad that said make $10,000 to $15,000 a week as a loan officer. I didn't know what a loan officer was, but I knew that was a lot of money. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. Give me that job ad. I'm going to apply. I know nothing about a loan, but I went into this bank, and this young 25-year-old Chinese girl just took a liking to me. She was very successful. She had 2 houses, 4 cars. She was just shark of a saleswoman and so bubbly and lovely. And she took a liking to me and hired me with me knowing nothing about the mortgage industry.
Your first acting job, fake it till you make it.
Exactly. Without knowing it, that was my very first acting audition. And she gives me this gig, and I just learned everything on the job. It was a sales job. I'd pound the phones from 9 in the morning till 8 in the evening because it was a commission-based sales job. And I just really wanted that $10,000 to $15,000 a month. I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to learn whatever I have to learn about a loan so that I can do this. And eventually, over the course of 1 or 2 years, I became one of the top sales executives in this branch of whatever, 15 to 20 salespeople. And I did make at one point that $10,000 to $15,000 a month. It wasn't like that every month, but I did have some of those months.
So you're making the ticket. So then how the hell do you wind up on America's Next Top Model? What season was this? 15 season? Yeah, season 15. So it's not like it's the first season. They're probably out scouting people is what I'm assuming. It just was so interesting for me to find that. And I'm like, huh. Because then you go into soaps. Because I've talked to so many people that have transitioned from modeling into acting. I was a model when I was little just because my mom didn't. I was like, I want to be an actor. She's like, here you go. And I'm like, no, that's moving pictures. I want to do moving pictures, not still pictures. Right. But we didn't know. Like, I'm from Kentucky. You're making money. You're hitting the mark. So what sideswipes you over to
Yeah, boredom, I think is what it was. I had now been at my job for 2 to 3 years and starting to feel a little bored, what it was, I think, is I wasn't feeling challenged. The mortgage industry started to tank. This was back in '08 when everything crashed. And I wanted to do something else. And I had always been interested. Back in college, I worked at Banana Republic. I was folding clothes and doing that thing. That was my little college gig. And a couple people had come in and they saw me in my nice Banana Republic outfit. And they said, "Hey, have you ever thought about acting or modeling? You're tall, you're cute, you might be able to do it." But I had never thought about these things. It was just something that was growing up as an Asian American kid in the Bay Area where I grew up. We just do not think about entertainment. And you're so far removed from Hollywood. Even when I went to college in San Diego, you're still so far removed from it. But that had stuck in the back of my head, I think. And at the time, I was watching Entourage, like one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Yeah.
I'm just watching and I'm like, man, that life looks pretty cool. Maybe I should give that a shot. And so while I was at my job and I had a little downtime, I'd pretend I was looking up leads on my computer, but I was really looking up how to become an actor and how to become a model, because one person at one point said I might be able to do it. And so I really started from the ground up. I knew nothing, but I had a good work ethic. And I knew from college, I knew from my job as a loan officer that I could teach myself enough or learn enough or work hard enough that I could maybe have a little success in whatever it is that I wanted to do. So I very quickly realized you need to get into an acting class and you need to get headshots and you need to get an agent. So I'm learning these things as somebody who just knows absolutely nothing about the industry. And so that's what I did. I went and got some headshots. I got into a local acting class in San Diego, started sending out some headshots to some local agencies. In the meantime, I was doing modeling gigs off of Craigslist.
Yes,
that I would find, and it wasn't paid, but it was an opportunity to walk down a runway and get a little experience.
Develop your book, get a book for people to your lookbook. I mean,
shots, do all that stuff. And so I really started from ground zero. I remember this might have been when I got the modeling bug. Is I was doing my very first fashion show on the rooftop of the W in downtown San Diego. And it was a very small crowd. And I remember these guys walking out in swimwear. And of course, there's a bunch of ladies in the crowd and they're cheering. And then I remember I walked out and I had these like tiny little European looking swim trunks that were basically underwear. Just went crazy. And these girls went crazy. And that was the first thing I'd really ever done. And I told myself, I was like, okay, I can get used to this. This seems a little cooler than sitting at a desk, pounding the phones, trying to make a buck. And so that's how I started.
So thank you for being so honest, because I do feel like it's Google how to become an actor. And it's what does Google tell you and what steps can you actually follow? But I talk about this on the podcast all the time too. And this is the great Bill Esper quoted this. It takes 10 years to start working as an actor. It takes 20 years to make a career, right? So I love that around the 2008 mark, you're like, I'm feeling a little itchy. Let me just Google how to possibly do this career. And then close to 10 years later, you get Quantico, you get S.W.A.T. So like you're right on that trajectory. I'm curious, did America's Next Top Model, did that help you get an agent for acting? Did that parlay?
Yeah. So the first agent I got was this local agency in San Diego who saw my headshot and they brought me in and signed me. It was a small commercial agency. And while I was sending out my headshots, I was like treating it like a sales job. I'm used to getting calling people and getting rejected like left and right. Like maybe one person out of 50 would want to talk to me. And there you had a potential lead. So I was like, I'm going to send out my headshot to everyone and anyone. And 2 or 3 months into this process, I got a call from Ford Models in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I had no clue who they were. This is how green I was. I was like, Ford Models, who's that? All right, let me get on my little Google thing and look up Ford Models.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They're like a big thing, a big deal. And I went up to LA and met with them, and they gave me a modeling contract. This was back in, I believe, 2009. But at the time I was still living in San Diego because I had graduated from UC San Diego. And shortly after that, they were sending me a couple castings and some auditions here and there. And I would drive from San Diego to Los Angeles, do a little 15-minute commercial audition or go to a casting or two. And then I would drive back. And in rush hour traffic, that's a
5-hour day for a 15-minute, if you're lucky, even 15-minute lookbook. They're like, okay, thank you. You're like, I can do anything else. I was just here. Okay, bye.
And so I would literally come right back. And it took just a few times of that to know that I had to move to Los Angeles if I really wanted to give this a good shot. And so it was through Ford, who they set me up with a couple commercial agent meetings because immediately I knew I wanted to act. I just thought it was all related. I thought the natural progression from what little knowledge I had was, okay, if you're a model, you do that first and then you become an actor. So I told them right away, I was like, look, I want to model, but I want to act. So if you can hook me up with a commercial agent, this and that. And so I met with a couple of commercial agencies, and since this is an acting podcast, so it's Abrams was just like the next floor above Ford Models on Sunset, right?
Yeah.
So I met with them and they were interested. They wanted to sign me. And I was like, okay, great. I'll get a commercial agent. And I remember my agent at Ford, assistant at the time, he said, hey, you should actually meet with one more before you make your decision. I'll send you over to Innovative Artists. And I said, sure, great. I had no idea who they are, so I had to do my research. And I went over to Innovative a few days later and met with their commercial team. And I loved them. They were so lovely and they wanted to rep me. And it was an easy decision. And I just was so glad that his assistant had told me to go meet with these guys first, because ultimately I signed with them commercially and had a very successful commercial run. I probably did about 10 national commercials over the years while I was modeling.
Over years, not the first year. I was going to be like, that's a record, 10 in a year. They'd be like, thank you. Here you go.
No. I never got a lot of commercial auditions. It was probably on average 2 per month. And I had buddies who would get 3 to 4 per week. So I'd on average get a couple of commercial auditions a month, but I'd always book a couple per year. So
good batting average.
Yeah. So over the course of whatever 5-6 years before I basically got Quantico in 2016, I would do a couple commercials a year and I would do a couple 2 to 3 modeling gigs a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. I never did that many, but that combined with commercials was enough. Plus a few bucks that I had saved up from working as a loan officer and moving myself up to Los Angeles. That was enough to keep me from having to find a survival job.
Survival jobs.
Yeah. So I was very thankful for that.
That's incredible. I have to ask the business question. So was it Innovative, the theatrical side, that said, hey, we want to meet with David? Or at that point, because you seem to have this great natural progression of being like, okay, I'm going to try on something new. Okay, I achieved that. Okay, what's the next thing? Or was it you that said, hey, I'm doing pretty well in commercials. Do you think theatrical would take a chance on me? Who initiated?
It was me. So that's just how I've always been. If I wanted something, nobody ever gave me anything. Part of that is just the way I grew up. Part of it's whatever, being an Asian American kid in white Hollywood at the time. I was like, nobody's going to give me anything. So I told the commercial department as soon as I signed with them, I want to act. I'm taking classes. Whenever you can give me an introduction to the film and TV agents, I would love one. And the commercial department was always like, "Yep, when you're ready, we'll send you over." And so it was me always hounding them and being and knocking on the door. "Hey, I got some new footage. Am I ready to go meet so and so in the theatrical department?" Things like that.
No, this is great because I think people are always asking, how do I expand? Who knows who would want to be on the team now? And I do think it's initiation. I think a lot of times people too, what you're saying is, there's a reason why we pay agents and managers 10%. It's because 90% of the work is still us. And I think so much actors always are like, I got an agent and manager. And now they sit back and they don't do anything. And then they get mad when the agent and manager is only giving 10%. Like they've got 60 clients, they've got lots of clients, but learning how to work the business along with the craft, learning like, oh, okay, I'm making innovative money. And also I'm taking this class. What classes were you taking on the side that you finally felt like, okay, I'm ready to start doing television and film?
Yeah, the first class I took her name was Lynette McNeil. She had a small studio on Larchmont and Melrose up on the second story. And when I moved to LA, I knew immediately that I had to get into a class. I had taken a couple months in a local class in San Diego and of course thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
But I needed a real acting class if I wanted to do this. I was already 25 or 26 at the time, so I already felt a little behind the eight ball because a lot of people go to drama school. They know they want to be an actor from a very young age. And I felt like I was playing catch up. So I knew that I need to get into an acting class and I need to work harder than everyone in that class if I want to have a shot. And while I was auditing different acting classes, I went into this one class and they started this class with all improvs. The teacher, the coach would give one actor a line who would be on stage and an actor would enter onto the stage and she would give them a line. And then the rest was improv. And that's how she started off every class. And so as I'm auditing this class and watching these actors, I thought it was a play. It was so good. And so I thought they were scenes and I almost couldn't believe how good and talented these guys are from just having a line and a line. And I was like, okay, this is the class I want to join. If I can at all be as good as these guys, my gosh, that would be great. And so I spent about my first 3 years in this class. It was a scene study class, but it was twice a week.
Oh, that's nice.
And it was like 4 or 5 hours a time. And remember, I knew I needed more practice. So I couldn't go to class once a week. I wanted to go twice a week. And then outside of that, I was just spending so much time rehearsing and going to my modeling and commercial auditions. And that's where I really fell in love, got the bug and fell in love because it was a theater setup and put up scenes and do music and do scenes from our favorite movies that we would never go out and audition for. But for me, it just got me comfortable performing in front of people and just addicted to getting laughs and doing great performances and putting your music to it and the lighting and your stage props. So unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to do theater yet. It's something I would love to do one day.
You're working. But you're working a 9 to 5. You're in a studio lot 9 to 5, essentially. There's like only so much time. It's interesting. I always talk about the staircase analogy too, how you can so incrementally see the development. It's like getting used to being a model. So you're getting comfortable being in front of a camera. Now you're getting comfortable being in front of a camera for commercials and having a line or two here. Now you're understanding an arc of a whole story and bringing everything in and really bringing a piece to life. It's beautiful to watch these things and then have the industry meet you there. I think sometimes actors want to jump to a certain landing right when they get here versus going up the incremental stairs and wondering, why they're not jumping landings or why agents and managers aren't getting them out for series regulars, because you're going to fall down. You want you get a first impression with casting, and they don't care if you've only been here for 2 weeks or 2 years. Doesn't matter. That's your first impression. You want to keep that, your gangbusters. You're ready to go, because they will remember that 5 years later, 10 years later. So
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From scene study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created The Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
I have to ask now, I'm curious what that one audition is. So you go and you tell Innovative, okay, I'm ready to go theatrical television. What's the transition for you going from commercial auditioning into theatrical and film?
Yeah,
Auditions.
it was a little rough. Like you said, I believe that every actor will get an opportunity. Sometimes you don't get many, but you will absolutely get an opportunity. Will you be ready for that opportunity? I, of course, thought I was ready. As soon as Innovative sent me over to their theatrical department, I signed with my agent, who I'm still with today. Of course, I thought immediately, I'm ready. Send me out for all this series regular, this, blah, blah, blah. But I was nowhere near ready looking back on it. And if they had sent me to some of these bigger rooms or for some of these bigger parts, and I did get a few really nice auditions, I just plain and simple, I wasn't ready at where I was as an actor. And there was one audition that was I think it was for the CW Arrow at the time. And I read the breakdown and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so perfect for this role. This is so me. I'm going to get it. So I go and audition, and I thought I did a great job. I thought I was perfect for this part. I thought it was going to be this is my break. And I'm, of course, hounding my manager afterwards. Hey, do we hear anything back? Blah, blah, blah. And he just gives it to me straight. And he does follow up with casting. And he tells me, yeah, we heard back. Casting said you were fine. Others were just better. And that always sticks with me, and it really stuck with me. And I knew as soon as my manager had told me that I needed to change something up. And this is beyond, I had left this class that I had spent 3 years in. I joined another class that was like once a week, and you learn the sides while you're in class. You don't spend any other time outside of class working. And I thought I could do that. And then I got this feedback and I was like, what am I thinking? Of course, that's not enough. I need to be acting more. I need to be creating my own stuff. I need to be rehearsing more. I need to be going to so I asked my manager, I said, give me a different class. I need to switch things up. Thank you for that feedback. That's good to know. And I switched classes, and I got into a class. It was John Rosenfeld up on Fairfax. And it sounds like you're familiar.
Yeah, I was with Leslie and John before John broke off. Yeah. John's great.
Yeah. And it was, I'm not going to say it was the most amazing acting class, but for me, where I was after having done this class and another class and this, it was perfect for me to take that next step in my craft to where I could compete for these roles that I wanted, like the one on CW Arrow that I wasn't ready for. And so I spent a year in this class and kind of had to relearn some stuff. But the class...
What did you have to relearn that you were like, oh, I thought I knew that?
It was just, what I really took from that class was just more about specificity in your acting. And I was just probably, what I was doing when I look back on it, I was doing general acting.
I'm sure you were believable, very believable, but like no specificity. Yeah.
I wasn't popping on the camera. And this is what I needed at that time to just tweak a few things because I was still doing nice auditions. But at that level of when you're trying to get big guest stars and possibly a series regular role, you really need to pop. People need to see you and be like, yes, okay, this guy can be a regular on a series. And I felt like that class really just took me up to where I needed to be just to compete. And about a year in, I got an audition for Quantico. And I actually brought it into that class because you could bring your auditions into class. And if you didn't want to perform the scene that night, you could work on your audition. And so I was like, oh yeah, free. I don't got to pay for the extra.
Right. Extra coaching. I get everybody's input. Yeah, that's what I love doing that, where you can see how everybody else has seen it. It's less pressure. It's less precious that way. We don't. Yeah. And what was for Quantico, because you joined season 2, because season 1 was a huge hit. So there is pressure where you're like, oh, this would be great. Because was that a recur for you, or was that? Yeah. Okay.
It was a recurring role. And I eventually got the role after I brought this into the audition in the class, and I taped it a couple times, and then I went and saw the studio, and then I actually was in New York at the time with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. This was in 2016, probably around in the summertime, and we were vacationing in New York for a few days. And I got the call that they wanted me for this part, and I would have to move to New York in 5 days. So
I'm already here. This is perfect.
I'm here. I'm so happy. Wow. I got my first major part on a hit TV show. And so I moved back to LA and grabbed my stuff, picked up my girlfriend who still models, was able to take her work. I said, will you come with me? It was a no-brainer. She said, yes, I'm going to come with you. I've always wanted to spend time in New York and try out that market. So it was just a beautiful opportunity for us both to go to New York and spend a year out there. I had always wanted to live in New York. It was my dream. I was like, I want to be young and single and live in Manhattan. But of course, I was bringing my girlfriend. It was
a bridge version. Yeah.
It was a version.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask a couple of questions if you're willing to get specific. Sure. So a recur, did they have how many episodes you'd be contracted yet for? It just said, did it say even possible recur, or it gave you like, this is a solid recur, we're bringing this guy in?
It was, I believe, 6 episodes, but there was always potential for this role to go beyond into the next season to something more permanent. That's what I had always been told.
Yes. So then for the sides, and you going in and doing it in class, there's usually a handful of sides, especially for a recur that's going on recur. What did you do differently that you think allowed you to receive that responsibility for this role specifically?
I think I was just a little more specific with my choices and my prep for the audition. And it was a good role for me. It was a CIA operative, up and coming. And I was like, of course, I've always wanted to play. Now I'm playing a SWAT officer on TV. The physique and the look, I was like, okay, this is great. It was when I had auditioned, they said potentially now this character is going to be gay, but it might not. That's how I had interpreted it. And I said, okay, that's cool. Really, at the time, I was like, I don't necessarily want to play a gay character, but it's cool. It's a CIA show. Quantico is a great series, and I got nothing else going on. I'm open to it. So when I got the part, and I remember going into the writer's room in New York after I had moved, and I walk in there and meet everybody, and the showrunner immediately is like, okay, so this character is gay. And I'm like, oh, okay, I thought it might, but okay, all right, that's cool. But it worked because he was a very religious guy, and he was closeted, and he didn't understand that but he was having these feelings, but he wanted to suppress them because it goes against everything he believed in. So it worked because I myself didn't really want to play this gay character, but I was okay with it. I had got the part. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I was working opposite Russell Tovey, who is an incredible British actor. And I learned so much from him. He was so awesome to work with. And he was like this cool James Bond type of gay spy. He was just so cool and badass. And so most of our scenes were together. So this 6-episode arc ended up turning into 12 or 13. And I had the showrunner sat me down and said, if we go into season 3, this is going to become more of a permanent role. And trust me, they were working me like a series regular.
Yeah, that's how they do that business. That's called the business. They're going to pay you for a recur, but they're going to use you like a series regular.
Now I see that on S.W.A.T, and
all the time.
Now I understand what it is
all the time. I'm glad that you touched on that. Because look, I love juxtaposition in character. I think that's the most interesting thing to watch. And that's a tool that we can use in our auditions all the time. But you didn't have that information. He's a closeted gay. He's very religious. That inherently creates juxtaposition inside your instrument, inside your body, inside your performance. But did you take that into consideration when you were making your specific choices before the audition? Or did you just leave that to the side?
I left it to the side, going back to what you had asked, and because you don't get a lot of time to prepare for an audition. You have a night or two if you're lucky.
Especially television. Yeah.
Exactly. Some network TV, sometimes same day. So there's not time to build and create this kind of character, what he's really going for, do your homework and do your research. And so I left that to the side and just, okay, he's a young CIA operative. I can understand what that is. Let me just do this how I would do this as myself. Because really, that's all you have time to show them in a self-tape. And as actors, you are what makes you so unique. And the things that I'm good at, whether it's some humor or charm, or I'm just trying to find ways to work that into my audition so that they can see a little more of who I am or what I would bring to this role. Because so many people are reading the same sides, right?
It's exactly that. And I think television, especially, because I would love to hear the journey from Quantico into S.W.A.T. How quickly, because the same year, essentially, did they almost overlap?
Yeah. So I thought I was going to continue on and do more of season 2 of Quantico. My time ended a little abruptly in my storyline. They kind of said, hey, this is David's last episode. The show at the time, I don't think the ratings were doing as good as season 1. And so I think there was a bit of on the fly changing storylines and changing things up. And so it was one of those last minute things where I found out, well, okay, I'm not going to be part of the show going forward. I thought I was going into season 3. That's okay. It was towards the end of the year, I think, of 2016 or beginning of 2017. And pilot season was right around the corner.
Yeah.
And I had really enjoyed auditioning in New York. I just got this really warm and friendly feel from casting directors out there, something that was a little different than auditioning in Los Angeles.
Yes, big time. I agree.
Now, everything is self-tapes and so it's a little different.
But there's something about the intimacy of the room. And I feel like in New York, if you got called into that office, they really wanted to see you. And for some reason, LA always felt like it was a favor to your agent, and they've got 500 other people eating their lunch. And it just was a different energetic vibe. I couldn't agree with you more. I felt more, we're doing something together. And with the casting director, like, oh, we're going to really find this part. Like I felt luxurious in my creativity in New York.
Yeah. You hit it on the head. That was the same feeling. And so I was like, I want to spend pilot season out here. Yes. I still got my tiny little studio with my girl, and it's only another month or 2 that I have to be out here. So I spent pilot season out there. I got close on a pilot called The Inhumans, which was a Marvel series for ABC that had a lot of buzz. And I think it was maybe down to me and a couple other guys. And I remember going to casting to do my test in New York, but everyone was in LA. And so I was like doing my audition and then looking at the the big Apple monitor on a Zoom type of thing to the director, and he's trying to relay stuff through that to casting to then give to me, and like the connection is slow and I'm having a hard time. And I just don't think it was the best. I just felt like I didn't crush it whatsoever. And I didn't end up getting the part.
Also, at that point, we're not as well versed in our technology, right? Now, Zoom chemistries happen all the time and everybody's doing them. So at least it's a little bit more, it's the same thing. Like you just said, like being in New York, it's luxuriously creative. If everybody else is there, it's really easy. But if they're going in the room in LA, it's hard to compete with an in-person, especially for a series. Regular chemistry is so big. They are writing for you. That was the point you made earlier. It's like television does move so fast. They choose an actor that they know can get specific and that they can write for. There's something interesting happening, and it gives the writer an idea. So it's not surprising that after doing Quantico, you're getting really versed in that and how to bring yourself to a role so easily that immediately after they're trying to find you a series where you're one of the series regular. Okay, so Inhumans goes away.
Yeah, so that goes away. I'm a little bummed out, of course, 'cause you didn't get something, but I'm like, okay, next thing. And that's when SWAT came along. And so this pilot comes along. At this time, Sean Ryan was already attached from The Shield, and Aaron Thomas, who had adapted the thing for TV, and Justin Lin was set to direct to Fast and the Furious, Star Trek.
Yep.
And Shamar was already attached to, and so and it was SWAT. That was enough right there. So
the title.
Oh my God, this is dope. This is cool. And they actually first wanted me to read for Street, the Street character. If you're familiar with series, I believe Colin Farrell played Street in the movie, and but he's that young badass, but it's a white character. And this is back in 2017 when maybe the industry wasn't as open as it is now to ethnic casting, especially for what was written as a white role. But I first auditioned for Street, and I sent in, I think I went in and auditioned in person, and they brought me back to read for the role of Mumford, who in the pilot was written as Hondo's counterpart on another team. He was written as a white guy in his 50s. And so they brought me back to read for that. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to judge it. Let me read it, right? And I guess I did something right. The day I moved back to Los Angeles, the next day was my test for SWAT. So now this is probably my third or fourth time auditioning. I think it may have been my third. And now I go to test in front of Sean Ryan and Justin Lin and Aaron Thomas and casting. And so now it was in room in Los Angeles. I just moved back the day before.
You get this theater vibe that you've been working towards.
Yeah. But also you're like, oh shit, Justin Lin, Sean Ryan. Wow. Okay. I'm reading for a part that's in his 50s. It's a white guy.
You're like, for sure, I'm going to nail it. I'm the guy.
And my thinking was, because when I read for Street, I read him as like the edgy, kind of rebellious, this loose cannon type of character. And I did that also for the Mumford role, even though it was written in his 50s. I wore my leather jacket and my motorcycle boots and my chain, and I went in there and read it like, and then this is what goes back to, sometimes you just can't judge the material. You just go in and do what you would do with it. And I remember one of my lines specifically in this audition is, Hondo, I got 20 years on you in SWAT. And I'm like this 30-year-old kid, but it was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it and just show them what I can do as me, a 30-year-old kid in this role.
Committing to the circumstances that are written. You didn't change it. You didn't change the line. You just committed.
I just committed. No, yeah, I read it as a 50-year-old guy. Hondo, I got 20 years on you in SWAT. And I left that room and I was like, all right, I think I did my thing. And an hour later, my manager calls me and he says, it's a no on SWAT. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. I was like, I understand. So he tells me no. And I remember I wasn't that disappointed because I felt like I had nothing to lose.
Right.
Because I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this. The white
Right.
guy.
You're like, that makes sense. That makes sense. It didn't.
30s, white guy in his 50s. And so I moved on, and I was probably more disappointed about the Inhumans role, to be honest, than maybe this. But it was just anytime you lose out, you're like, SWAT, that would have been amazing. But I've always had pretty thick skin. I think that comes from my sales background. So I can move on pretty quickly, and you have to in this business.
Here comes the next audition. And if you're carrying over that rejection energy, I just don't think it allows you to be able to prepare for the next thing, and it chips away at your confidence. There's nothing better than you doing that sales job for a couple years to be like, whatever, next. Like, that's the confidence that people want to give you. Like, nothing can really bother you. Sets are tumultuous. Work is intense sometimes. And the biggest, I think, banner that people could take away from, do not take it personally. But we get so sensitive as actors. We take everything so personally, and it has nothing to do with us 97% of the time.
Yeah, you're totally right. But I think it's that thing of, if I had called someone about a loan and they didn't want to refinance, that's just, the more it doesn't make sense for them. But with acting, it's your,
hi, I'm the problem.
How you look and talk, and that's what
you're like, I have to lose 50 pounds now. I need to age 20 years. I should put gray in my hair. Like, listening to actors try to fit the mold of what they think that they want is funny to me. I did it when I was younger too. If I could do this, if I could do that, they would hire me. It's as soon as you sink into your confidence, it's interesting how the world shifts for you. So like, when does S.W.A.T come back and be like, hey, by the way, third time's a charm? Like, what?
About a week later, I got a call, and this time my agent said they wanted me for the role of Tan. And I read that pilot 3 or 4 times, and there was definitely no role of Tan. So I was like, what is this role of Tan? And I come to find out that they had created this role of Victor Tan to be an additional member on the S.W.A.T team. And I had got a part in this pilot. And again, it was a recurring role for 6 episodes to begin with. But I was like, I thought it was a no on SWAT. I guess now it's a yes. And literally that weekend, now I'm at Universal meeting the rest of the cast, who are all series regulars, by the way. But it felt, because I was a part of this SWAT team, it felt like we were just all the cast of this new pilot. And we're at Universal now, working with a former SWAT and Navy SEALs in an empty room with tape on the ground. And now we got guns, and we're learning how to do it like the real guys do. And then a week after that, we started shooting the pilot. And come to find out, a lot of it was Justin Lin, as himself, a Taiwanese American director, championing for an Asian actor, and then Sean Ryan and Aaron Thomas agreeing that there needed to be one more member on the SWAT team, because it felt like one member too light. And so it just a little bit of luck.
You went in twice, you committed, they knew they could trust you like that. I'm just also going to give you props. It's not like you just showed up to Hollywood 2 weeks before. You're at your 10-year marker. You understand certain things. You didn't take it personally. Kudos. That's such a huge win. When somebody writes something for you and they're like, no, we need him in this world. Can we talk business about this though now? Because that's so much of this acting is, people have a dream, right? Oh, I want to be in television and film, or I want to be on stage. And then they get to that place. And in order to take a job into a career, we have to understand the business side of it. Why we have great agents and managers, why eventually you might need a lawyer. What you're willing to share once you hit that sixth episode marker, and especially because of what happened with Quantico, is your team now stepping in and saying, hey, by the way, he's series regular now, you need to bump him up? Or do they wait till season 2? You're pretty much used in every single episode of season 1. So you're working as a series regular, billed as a recur. What's the business plan to utilize you to how do I say this in a like PC way, for you to be valued monetarily for your work, just like everybody else?
Thankfully, we didn't have run into that because we filmed the pilot. Pilot turned out still one of my favorite episodes. I could rewatch it every time it's
So
on.
good.
It was so good. Sean Ryan, when we got ordered to series and we're filming our now second episode overall, our first episode going to series, on the first day of shooting, we're in Beverly Hills filming a scene, and Sean comes up to me, who's our showrunner now, and he says, "Hey, I loved your work in the pilot. I'm a fan. I think he said if we get a back 9." Because at this point we had only been ordered 13 episodes. I said, if we get it back 9, I want to make you a series regular. And so I was like, oh, wow, that was awesome to hear. Oh my God. Okay, cool. And I believe it was they didn't even wait till a back 9. It was like episode maybe 2 or 3. And by episode 5, I was a series regular on the show. And in those few episodes, I was still auditioning for other stuff.
That's the point I was going to bring up, because I'm not just saying this to be an actor that's, we got to get paid our worth. No, it's smart for the studio to lock you down.
Right.
And a lot of people use it as strategy that if they haven't been locked down on a show, then they're going to go out and get another show and put pressure on the show that they're on to give them series regular, to give a contract. Right. So that they have first position, because if not, they don't have first position other than if they're pinning you week to week. They're rolling the dice on losing David Lim.
Yeah, and it could have been a little of that, but we just there was a great chemistry from the get-go with our cast, and it really showed on screen. I think that's largely why the series has gone this long, is that camaraderie, team feel. We've always had that, even as we've lost cast members over the years in seasons 5, 6, 7, and gained new cast members. We've always had this family team feel. A lot of that starts with our guys on top, Shamar as our lead. And now I'm one of the more seasoned guys who have been there from the beginning. And it's important to us to create a fun environment. It's a fun show. We get to chase bad guys and kick down doors and get into fights and hang off helicopters and blow things up. And anyone who comes on our show, we want them to just have a great time. And that's really how Shamar is anyway. He's such a fun-loving, goofy guy, even though he plays such a serious Marine SWAT officer on TV. And so we've always just tried to have that camaraderie. It's a big part of our show.
I think that's what the sustainability of the show is. And even for you guys for them to get rid of the show and then the fans to bring it back, like that was such a huge win during the strike. I felt like that happened during the strike, right? I'm not mistaken the timeline of that. The show was canceled and then you guys were brought back.
We were canceled after season 6, and we felt like we were doing great in the ratings.
Yeah.
We moved around to a bunch of different time slots and did really well in the Friday night, what used to be the death slot. We're like, oh my gosh, we got moved there, but we crushed it. And we felt like we were going to get a season 7. Now, I remember because I got a text from somebody. That's how I found out that our show was canceled. Just a random, no call, no nothing. I got a text from someone who worked on the show with the Deadline article that said SWAT was canceled. And so this was on a Friday. I'm out walking the dog with my wife, and I get this thing, and it's just someone rips your heart out, because it felt like it came so out of left field.
It's a betrayal almost. It's not coming from mom and dad. It's not coming from the parents. Right. You're not getting that phone call. You get whiplashed from the public. What's true, what's not. But I love that then that it's also the public that's, no, we will save this show.
Yeah, and that was a Friday. And over the weekend, Shamar got on social media and went on a little rant, and our fans showed up. And what it really was is a miscommunication and breakdown in negotiations because we're a co-production between CBS and Sony. It wasn't because they didn't want to renew the show. Everything was there. It was just a breakdown in negotiations. I think you had a new head of the studio and a new head of Sony, and the talks just broke down. There was a looming strike which was playing into it. So everything that was ordered was going to be shortened seasons. And we were trying to get a longer season. And they were like, no, everything's getting. So it was just a breakdown of things, canceled the show. By Monday, they uncanceled it.
What a great whiplash. What a great end to the whiplash. Like
roller coaster of emotions. You experience everything. And on Monday, we find out we're uncanceled and we're going to come back for a 7th and final season, shortened because of the strikes to 13 episodes. But for us, at least, we were like, okay, we can give a proper send off to the characters, for our fans. And for us, we have another season to come back and properly say goodbye to the show. And I remember during hiatus between season 6 and 7, Shamar and I are very close. He lives like a mile down the road from me. So I spend a lot of time at his place, hanging out and shooting the breeze. And we would talk about season 7. And we just always said, we're like, hey, I know they say this is our last ride, but we're like, what if it's not? What if we go in there and we give everything we got to every episode collectively, and we can talk to the whole cast and say, we're going out with a bang, and we're going to leave it all out there on the field because we love a good sports analogy. We're like, we're going to leave everything out on the field. If our writers bring it and we bring it, who the hell knows what could happen? And that's what we did in season 7. We showed up every day and gave everything we had to this show that has been such a big part of our lives. And we're like, if we're going out on our terms, saying goodbye, wrapping storylines up, and just going out with the best season that we can possibly deliver. And I really felt like we did that in season 7. Towards the end of season 7, I'm getting ready to say my goodbyes. We're filming our last episode. And I remember it's one of our last days of filming season 7. And all of a sudden, some executives start showing up on set from Sony and CBS. And I'm like, oh, here we go. They're going to come and say, thank you for your service. It's been a great run. And Shamar gets up in our boxing ring at S.W.A.T HQ. And he brings everybody, all the crew, cast. We got 200 people there. And he announces that we've been picked up for season 8 and a full 22 episode season. And I've just never seen so many people are in tears. They're hugging. And a lot of it was for our crew. It's on a show that you employ 250, 300 people. And it meant that they had work for another year. Of course, for us, we were so over the moon.
I cried when I saw that video. I have a few friends on the show and I saw the video and I was bawling. And I was like, nope, the show's never going to go away. It's never going down. It's so good. David, what an incredible ride that you've had from day one of just being curious, following the curiosity, and then landing in different situations that continue to fertilize really more storylines and stuff. Are you down for some fun rapid fire questions that I just started doing this season?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. When you get an audition, who's the first person you call?
Now it's got to be my wife, because I got to run. She's my go-to.
Is she run?
Yeah. She's got good instincts. She's not an actress, but she actually has really good instincts.
And she knows you, right? So now she does. Sometimes I say, do not tape with your partner because it could be disastrous. And sometimes it's great. She can probably get a really great performance out of you that I couldn't get out of you.
It's like you don't have to call somebody up to or them come over here or pay somebody. They're just already here. So it's
what else is she gonna do? This is your guys' special time tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming same person. When you book the job, who's the first call?
Yeah, probably my wife. And before that, it'd either be her or my dad. My dad they were apprehensive at first when I told them I wanted to become an actor after paying for my college tuition for me to become an engineer. But they've also been my number one fans as I've had success throughout the years.
That's so beautiful. Okay, two-parter. How do you celebrate? Like, how did you celebrate when you got S.W.A.T? And then how do you recover? Like when you didn't get Inhumans, how do you recover when it's like that job that you're like, oh.
Celebrate, I would say, Go out to my favorite restaurant. We love Hillstone in Santa Monica. It's like one of our favorite spots. It's we so if we're celebrating something like a season pickup or getting S.W.A.T, we're probably going there. Recovery, it's a quick little cry your tears or yell or whatever and move on immediately. I believe that you're meant to get the parts that you're meant to get. I wasn't meant to get that part for Inhumans. I was meant to get this thing that came along right after. So
that it just keeps going and going. You have no idea, right? Inhumans done, right? Like
sometimes no's can lead to bigger yeses.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, 2 more. Craft services, what do you grab?
In the mornings, I grab like a soft boiled egg these days or 2 to get some like protein. I try to stay away from crafty and catering.
Me too.
If you do a season of that every day and you're gaining like 5-10 pounds.
It's always a joke to me. I feel like craft services is definitely for crew. It's not for the actors or actresses where you're like, by the end of this, I'm going to look way different than day 1 of shooting.
Yeah.
Okay, since you guys have been going for 8 seasons, I think this is my favorite question to ask. Best on-set game or prank?
Oh my gosh.
You guys do them?
We have fun. We do this season. We've been doing little silly TikTok videos and stuff. People used to, this was like in the early seasons, we would do like an intimate scene or a really intense scene. And then some actor would just touch the other actor on the face.
Just pet them.
A really intense scene in the situation room, and then they would just, we used to do that a lot. So we had a fart prank one time. Someone put a little fart thing in someone's little tactical bag, and we're all out, and someone's setting it off. And Jay, who it was in his little pouch, who plays Deacon, he's, what is going on? And he's getting angry, and we're all just like dying, laughing. But these days, we do 10-hour shoot days. We film an episode in 8 days. We don't get a lot of we don't get a lot of coverage. We will get 2 close-ups tops. So our show moves so fast that while I would love to do pranks on the daily, we don't have time. We're like, dude, we gotta get this and we gotta get it in and deliver it on time.
And that leads me to, this will be my last question. As far as people that I always call guest stars, they're guests in your house. You've created a house for the last 8 years. What's the best thing an actor can do that's being a guest in the S.W.A.T house to prepare? Like you said, you get 1 or 2 takes, so you got to be ready to go. Is there anything else that actors can do to be best prepared to come be a guest in the party?
I think it's always about the work. It's, be likable, be friendly, but most importantly, just be on time and be prepared. And when it's go time, just do your thing and just go back to what you've always done, what got you the part, which is being a great actor. Great guest stars inspire and motivate us as who have been on the series. It makes us want to up our game. It makes us want to match the level of the performance that the guest star is bringing. So it's just be prepared and do great work.
Thanks for being prepared and really showing a work ethic where it does pay off. I think for actors that are listening, just staying the course and then figuring out where you are in your journey and where you can get better. I love hearing that every point that you're like, oh, okay, I want to get better at that. And you did. You went out and got better at that. And then the opportunity was met. So this was such a joy, David. Thank you for letting me dig into the bold journey.
So that was so fun.
Where can everybody find you? Obviously watch S.W.A.T, but like where are you on socials?
I'm on socials at David Bradley Lim on Instagram, and I have a TikTok now. I never knew I'd have a TikTok, but I have a TikTok, and people like.
You can follow along with the on-set pranks there. Great.
Yeah, my wife and I also, we hand make jewelry in our spare time. So the brand is called Maya David. So you can follow us at Shop Maya David and see all of our beautiful handmade pieces. That's our little passion project that we have on the side. So
I love that. That was one of the questions I always ask a bunch of series regulars. It's once you get to this mountaintop, you're going and you're practicing and it's a job that you've gotten really skilled at. So you don't have to spend as much time. And sometimes you have to fill the creative well in other places. So what is that again? At Shop Maya David?
Shop Maya David, and they can see all beautiful little handmade jewelry.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was so lovely to speak with you.
You too.